Hello all, I'm Wyckworm. After the release of the Walking Dead update in Dead by Daylight, with all the new content such as new survivors, perks, and item changes, there's also a few bugs, as is usually expected during new Dead by Daylight chapters. Most recognizably, I'd say, is the beam that appears on the offering screen, named Jim. Don't know how that came to be, but I've been hearing it everywhere. There's been some other bugs as well, but just overall harmless stuff. Though with all this new content, I wouldn't blame you if you missed this game-breaking bug, which is probably for the best since the potential this bug has is actually catastrophic. And I'll prove how so in my favorite way, mathematically. For some quick background, a bug was found while using the Streetwise perk. Streetwise makes it so when you search a chest, any item you found will have 80% more charges than its initial maximum. For example, medkits have 24 charges. Using Streetwise and finding one in the chest for an additional 80% means when you pick it up, it will be 43.2 charges. If you're unsure how charges work, without any perks that increase any kind of speed, survivors initially do actions like healing or repairing generators at 1 charge per second. Since healing as a survivor is 16 charges, without a medkit it takes 16 seconds. Similarly, it'll take 90 seconds to do a generator since generators are 90 charges. Items like medkits and toolkits also increase healing speed and repairing speed, respectively. And just so we're on the same page, something that increases the speed by 100%, or just twice the speed, means that the charges of that item are applied at double the speed. So a toolkit now with 200% efficiency means 2 charges per second, applying the 16 charges to a generator in only 8 seconds, meaning 8 seconds were saved, leaving 74 of the 90 charges on the generator to remain. So when it comes to gens, if you happen to find an engineer's toolbox in a chest, which has 16 charges and increases repair speed by 100%, with Streetwise, this would bring the charges up to 16 times 1.8, which is 28.8 charges. Now, if you were to have the Ace in the Hole perk, and you got lucky with it giving the add-ons of the Clean Rag and Socket Swivels, this would mean you would now have an increased repair speed by 100%, with another plus 20% from Clean Rag, and another plus 30% from Socket Swivels, for a 150% total addition, or times 2.5 speed, meaning 2.5 charges per second. Again, this just means that the 28.8 charges of this toolbox are applied in only 11.52 seconds, saving 17.28 seconds. Nothing crazy when you consider there's a total of 5 gens and you only use it on the first one, but saving 17 seconds is certainly very helpful. Let's say you're aware of this. Perhaps you're working with a survivor group. So you put on resilience and you get injured, meaning an additional 9% to repair speed. After being injured, you happen to find a hex totem, and lucky for you, you also made sure to equip Overzealous as your final perk, therefore giving you another 20%. Now let's say someone else has proved thyself, and every survivor is within at least 4 meters of you. For the time being, they're not doing a gen though, just you, just so I can delay counting the efficiency penalties. Overall, this means plus 100% from Engineer's Toolbox, plus 20% from Clean Rag, plus 30% from Socket Swivels, plus 20% from Overzealous, plus 9% from Resilience, and plus 30% from Prove Thyself for a grand total of an additional 209% or 3.09 charges per second. Now, with Streetwise, ignoring the effects of the bug, this means that the Engineer's Toolbox would have 28.8 charges. At 3.09 charges per second, this means to finish the toolbox takes 9.32 seconds, meaning you saved 19.48 seconds of this generator with the toolbox alone, a slight increase from the rough 17 seconds we mentioned before. But now the rest of the repair speed would now be at 3.09 minus 1.5 for the toolbox, so times 1.59. So the remaining charges, 90 minus 28.8, which is 61.2 charges, would take 61.2 divided by 1.59, 38.49 seconds, meaning another 22.71 seconds are saved, totaling 42.19 seconds saved. So the gem was completed in 53.12% of the raw time. Quite a bit, and that's just soloing. Hell, if we even take in that someone else brought Invocation Weaving Spiders, then that's 90 minus 28.8 minus 10, 51.2 charges after toolbox use. Taking instead 51.2 over 1.59 equals 32.2 seconds, meaning 19 more seconds saved, totaling 19 plus 10 plus 19.48, 48.48 seconds saved, completing this gen in 46.13% of the raw time. But now your toolbox is empty, and this only helped here on one gen. If you did all gens alone, you'd save 48.48 seconds on the first, an additional 10 seconds on the other 4 from weaving spiders, and the remaining 80 times 4, 320 charges would be completed in 201.26 seconds. So it would take 242.78 seconds to complete all gens, saving 207.22 seconds. That's 46.05% of gen time saved. However, with the Streetwise bug, the problem was that if you keep swapping the toolbox from the chest, the plus 80% charges keep stacking. Take in. That means if every swap is increasing by 80% on the total charges, not adding 80% to the initial max charge, That means it increases by times 1.8 to the power of n, with n being every time you pick up the toolbox. If you do it in only 10 times, which is much more than needed, that's times 1.8 to the power of 10, which is times 357.0467 charges, or an additional 35,604.67%, meaning 5,712.75 total charges, much more than the 28.8. Essentially infinite, since 5 generators is only a total of 450 charges. 6 swaps alone would make it 544 charges. So now, our math doesn't need to account for the toolbox running out, as long as enough swaps were done. That means to solo all gens, before we consider any of the other perks, just with Streetwise and the ideal outcome from the ace in the hole, giving the plus 150% edge toolbox alone, providing 2.5 charges per second, it will take 180 seconds to finish 450 charges on all generators. That's 40% of raw time. 270 seconds just gone from the bugged toolbox alone. Now, including all the other perks again, resilience, overzealous, and teammates with invocation, weaving spiders, and prove thyself, back at the 3.09 charges per second, infinitely, because remember the 150% is no longer dropping since the engineer's toolbox is infinite, it would take 90 minus 10 divided by 3.09, 25.89 seconds, saving 64.11 charges or seconds, ignoring the time it actually takes to apply the invocation. And of course, since the charges are infinite, this would apply to all generators. 129.45 seconds for all 5 gens. 320.55 seconds saved. That's completing it with only working at 28.77% of the raw time. Let me say that again. It would take about 2 minutes and 9 seconds to complete all gens, saving 5 minutes and 21 seconds. This Streetwise bug could let you complete gens 1.8755 times faster than what should be physically possible if you have this entire setup without the Streetwise bug. Almost double speed. But hey, do you want to get even more extreme? Let's say somehow you pulled the same toolbox, the same add-ons in 4 different chests. So now every member of the team has one of these. After all, you're all standing beside each other anyways because you need the prove thyself effects, so you might as well help with the gens. Now, I don't even know if 5 gens can spawn with all 4 repair positions available, but we're already suspending a lot of disbelief for this hypothetical anyways, so let's say somehow it did spawn this way. So we know you have Ace in the Hole, Overzealous, Resilience, and of course, Streetwise. For max potential in abusing this bug, your Survive with friends all decided to bring Resilience and Overzealous as well, though instead of Ace in the Hole and Streetwise, they all bring Spine Chill, and one brought Prove Thyself, another brought Invocation Weaving Spiders, and the last brought, let's say, Friendly Competition. And again, since we're suspending disbelief, let's assume the killer is always looking at all of you within a 36-meter range, so you always have the 6% boost from Spine Chill. Meanwhile, Friendly Competition increases repair speed by 5% for 75 seconds after completing a gen with other survivors. Everyone gets this increase as long as they completed the gen together. I haven't used this, but from what I'm seeing, there's no cooldown, so that means this will be effective for the 2nd to 5th gens for everyone, since it most definitely will not take 75 seconds to complete a gen, and let's say finding the gens doesn't take long at all, so the effect would realistically never wear off. Now I'll set the stage in full. Before the killer hooks anyone, you've all been injured for the resilience effects. You finish the Weaving Spider's invocation, removing 10 charges on all gens, so gens are only 80 charges, not 90, saving 50 charges total, or even 50 seconds from the raw time. You collected all 4 Infinite Engineer's toolbox. The killer for some reason brought 4 different hexes, and each of you has cleansed one, giving you all the 20% boost from Overzealous, and you somehow don't get injured for the rest of the match, so it stays the whole time. And somehow, the killer is always within 36 meters, looking directly at all of you. All gens have 4 slots available, and you work on all of them together, utilizing Prove Thyself the whole match. Though this does mean the negative 45% efficiency penalty when working with others, but that still results in gens being 2.2 times faster than working alone, so it's fine. Now, get ready for a bit of math. For a quick explanation about the math behind charges with positive and negative modifiers, you naturally work out 1 charge per second, which we've established, as this is equivalent to 100% efficiency. Positive modifiers are simply added to this, as we've been doing. However, negative modifiers aren't simply subtracted. These work by each being subtracted by the default efficiency, of course being 100% or 1 charge per second in decimal form. And then all negative modifiers are multiplied together. And then that negative modifier final number is multiplied by the result of the positive modifiers added to the natural efficiency. So for example, if you were self-healing using a med kit with medical scissors while using the resilience perk, this would provide a positive 10% modifier from the medical scissors, a positive 9% modifier from resilience, and a negative 33% modifier from personal healing speed penalty. And let's say you're also currently affected by Sloppy Butcher, meaning another modifier of negative 25%. The positive modifiers would be added 0.09 plus 0.1 equaling 0.19, meaning without the negative modifiers, you'd be healing at 1 plus 0.19 equaling 1.19 charges per second. Same math we've been working with throughout this whole video so far. Though with the negative modifiers, of course in decimal form, we'd first subtract each from the default speed. 1 minus 0.33, which is 0.67, and again with the other negative modifier, so 1 minus 0.25, which is 0.75. We take the product of these two results, so 0.67 times 0.75, equaling 0.5025, or 50.25%. This final negative modifier value is multiplied by what we have after the positive modifier additions. So the 1.19 is multiplied by 0.5025, resulting in a final healing speed of 0.5979 charges per second, or 59.79% efficiency. Starting with the first survivor, the repair speed is the same 3.09 charges per second we've seen before after just considering the positive modifiers, excluding friendly competition since one gen must be completed before we're considering this to be active for the remainder of the match. The negative modifier of 4 survivors working on a single generator would be 1 minus 0.45, or just 0.55. Multiplying this of our post-positive survivor result gives 1.6995 charges per second. This negative modifier would be the same for all other survivors, and the positive modifier would be almost the same, just missing a 6% increase from Spine Chill. So they're working at 3.15 charges per second at positive modifiers, resulting in 1.7325 charges per second after the negative modifiers are accounted for. Adding all these survivors' personal repair speeds together gives the final repair speed of the first generator to be 6.897 charges per second, completing the 80 charge first gen in 11.5992 seconds. Now for the next 4 gens, friendly competition is activated, giving 5% to all survivors for the remaining gens, putting survivor 1 at 3.14 charges per second after positives and everyone else at 3.2 charges per second. Since all these are being multiplied by the same negative modifier, we could have been just adding these all together first for simplicity. So a total of 12.74 charges per second after the negative modifier multiplying by 0.55, meaning the remaining 4 generators are repaired at 7.007 charges per second, completing each of the remaining 4 gens in 11.4171 seconds, meaning a total gen repair time of 57.2676 seconds. We'll round to 57 seconds. Therefore, at the most extreme case with this bug, though nearly impossible, it would be a bit under a minute, 57 seconds, to complete all 5 generators. That's 12.67% of the natural 450 seconds it should take in raw time, meaning 393 seconds, or 6 minutes and 33 seconds, are just gone. That's unreal, and just goes to show you the absolute extremes that this bug could have gotten to. You may be thinking this is just because all the perks give a lot of increased repair speed, but look at the numbers. 30%, 20%, 9%, 6%, 5%, and negative 10 charges with the invocation, which is about 11.11% of gen charges. Certainly a lot. The additional 150% of the engineer toolbox with add-ons is the bulk of it, something that should only last for 28.8 charges with Streetwise, barely a third of one gen before it becomes useless. Getting lucky and finding 4 identical toolboxes for each survivors gives us time saving for about 1.28 gens, not nearly 5. But now being used for all charges of all gen, I believe that's an extra 3.91 times the charges that should have never been able to exist. And that's just for toolbox charges actually being used on gens. Because of course, the extra charges are potentially infinite, so this could go towards disabling hooks to mess with the killer some more. That just goes to show the potential insanity that this bug could have caused if abused logically and with extreme luck. In conclusion, this is an unlikely and extreme scenario that would need to be planned perfectly and executed with an insane amount of luck and coordination to be pulled off. But it goes to show the potential game-breaking risk of this bug, because I've seen some survivor groups pull off some wild stuff. As I'm finishing writing the script for this little video, I just noticed it got kill switched in the 9.1.1 patch, and by the time I post this, it'll be well after that happened. So luckily we'll never actually see this catastrophe. That's all. See you around.